Welcome to the Wellness on Purpose podcast, your go-to source for impactful, educational, and realistic information designed to propel you forward on your journey to intentional well-being, not just for today, but for the well-being of future generations. Join us as we dive into insightful conversation with industry and brand leaders in the ever-evolving landscape of the health and wellness industry. Discover the latest trends, gain valuable perspectives, and uncover practical tips to elevate your wellness journey starting today. This podcast is brought to you by Joanne's Place Health Foods, your trusted partner in health, located in the heart of Peterborough and Lindsay, Ontario. I'm your host, Marissa Laughlin, and I'm thrilled to be guiding you through this season of the Wellness on Purpose podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Wellness on Purpose podcast. For today's episode, we are going to be discussing the most commonly searched question about men's health, and that is how to support men's mental health naturally. Men's mental health is a topic that is gaining attention, and for a good reason. In today's fast-paced world, stress, anxiety, and depression are common challenges many men face. Fortunately, there are many holistic approaches that can be taken to make the world of a difference. For this episode, I've asked Irene Pauline from Living Alchemy to join me in this conversation as we explore various aspects of supporting men's mental health naturally. From the foods that can boost mood to the lifestyle habits that promote resilience, we'll cover it all. Plus, we talk about the role of supplementation and natural remedies in maintaining mental well-being. So if you've ever wondered how to navigate the complex landscape of men's natural health, this is the episode for you. Whether you are a friend, a family member, or a spouse tuning into this episode, there is going to be a lot of really great practical tips and expert insights that you can use to help your loved ones, or if you're a male listening, to use in your own life to thrive mentally and emotionally. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Irene Pauline from Living Alchemy back onto the podcast. Hello, Irene. Welcome back to the Wellness on Purpose podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on here again.
I'm so excited to have you join me today because with Father's Day right around the corner, I really wanted to focus on men's health and specifically the mental health of men. So we know that mental health in general, both women and men, it's becoming more of a conversation and it's important. I mean, it should have been a conversation long ago, but we know it's becoming more normalized to have these conversations with our friends, our family, coworkers, in our professional settings, whether we're talking to our doctors, naturopaths, whoever that might be. But it's definitely getting its spotlight, and we're realizing that there's so many things that are connected to our mental health. We're going to talk about the gut. We talk about sleep, stress, so many things that we're going to get into today. But it's, in my experience at least, men are not usually the one to talk about it. It's usually their wives, their partners, maybe somebody that's like, observing their professional setting. They tend to overthink and push those feelings down. And we want to start to open up this conversation. But one thing that we also know about men, and I say this in a point of I have consulted with men in nutrition and supplements, is they have really good discipline skills and they really do well when they are in a routine. They have someone telling them what to do, whether that is their significant other or their naturopath, nutritionist, whomever that might be. They're really good at being disciplined and doing something they know is going to support them. So for the purpose of today's episode, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about mental health with men, but rather than continuously identifying those dysregulations in men's lives or in their bodies, I want to really focus on how we can provide our listeners some supportive habits to recommend for, it could be the significant others listening to the podcast, but if it's men that's listening, what can we recommend to them to support their mental health? So we're going to dive into this from more of a natural approach. And before we get right into it, I'd just like to know, do you have any comments or like specific experiences in your practice and working alongside Living Alchemy with men specifically who are trying to manage their mental health? Just like generalized feedback that you've noticed.
Yeah, I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I do agree with you. We need to be shining more light onto men's health for mental health. It's great that there is more of this talk around mental health. It's just honing into the needs of the of male health here. And so at Living Alchemy, we have our whole team works with the majority of our clientele on gut health. And when we work on gut health, this shows significant improvements in mental health, especially for males. A lot of the research out there is on male health. And what we see is the number of males that are suffering with IBS and IBD are significantly growing and throughout different age gaps as well. And so, with this, unfortunately, it is growing. And unfortunately, it is the most commonly undiagnosed issue with digestive health for males, unfortunately. And typically, males, they're not going to the doctor's office until it's gotten really bad, or they're not seeking holistic practitioners right away or shopping at your natural health food stores as often as, say, a female would. And so this is when we look at mental health, the root cause and the driving factor is going to be that connection between the brain and the gut. So we start with gut health, and how you might see these symptoms of mental health appear in life, because that's such a big spectrum, that the wording mental health, it varies. So it might just be that memory lapses, short-term memory lapses, where's my phone, where's my glasses, they're on your head, your keys are here, that kind of thing. And you're just, you kind of brush that off. Happens to all of us, brain farts, right? But then you see things like popcorn brain. Have you heard that terminology before? It's kind of like, oh, this, that, there, where, when. You're all over the place. And then it's brain fog. So it starts to be a little bit consistent, and it's almost like brain constipation. And from there, it can look like mood swings start coming into place. Mood swings to anxiousness, maybe some new fears are developing, maybe deeper, darker thoughts are happening, and then it's anxiety. And then the more the serious spectrum is depression. And there's different levels of that, of course, but that's, mental health and in the wider range of how this might appear for males. So when we look at root cause, working on gut health does show significant improvements with mental health. Of course, also significant improvements with sleep and hormone production. So all of those are going to play a factor with mental health as well, which I'm excited because we're taking that holistic approach here when we're going into this conversation together. And I know we're going to be talking about some of those other signs and symptoms that are appearing in males.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you touched on the fact that you see, and research has shown that there is a rising number of IBS and IBD. And actually, for our listeners, we actually recorded a podcast together previously, and we talked about all of the details on IBS and IBD before. So I will leave that in the comments. So even if you are, a female listening to this and you're just getting information, you're like, actually, I would like to know a little bit more than that, go check out that episode because it was phenomenal. But that's what we know. We know that there is that common connection between the gut and the brain, and they work synergistically together. So we cannot treat just one. We need to look at the body as a whole, take a holistic approach. And we see that ripple effect of targeting the gut to also obviously for the brain, but so many other factors: increase energy, improve sleep, those types of things that we're going to get into. Now, when we talk about habits of men in particular, what would you say overall would be maybe the top 3 daily habits that men tend to do that actually has a direct impact on their mental health or their gut health that they might not be aware they're even doing, but really doesn't help to support either the gut or the brain?
That is going to be that mindset, their internal dialogue that's appearing. And it might just pop up in little ways with that voice, maybe being critical, or that ego really taking over and being that driving factor. And so looking more inward about what you're thinking about more often, where your mind is leading you. So this is can be very impactful for longer term healthy mental health regulation. So looking at going inward, looking at how your ego is coming up, But then furthermore, when we connect the brain, we connect the gut. So we look at diet, how your diet has changed, how your thoughts have changed, that connection that might come hand in hand. Looking at if we're eating more, meat, less fruits and vegetables, more bad oils, deep fried, more alcohol intake, anything along those lines, what that looks like. So that's going to impact mental health. And then some of those habits that we're not doing is, a lot of males don't take supplements, and it might be their protein shake or their pre-workout, but not something for cognitive health, and possibly not a probiotic either. So we need to look at doing more research about, reaching out for help if we don't have the capacity to be able to handle that ourselves. If it's, asking your partner or asking the health advisor at your natural health food store what you're, sharing what you're working on and how you can find the right solution for it.
Love that. So let's break down kind of those three big topics. You talked about, mindset, you talked about nutrition, and then you talked about proper supplementation. So let's first start with, actually, one thing you didn't mention was exercise. I'd love to know, when we're talking about specifically men's health, where/how important do you think regular exercise is for men?
Yeah, so you just asked me for three. So the fourth would be exactly that, which I would add in as exercise. So I'm so glad that that came up. And yes, exercise, especially for males, is even more important. Males naturally, their natural instinct is to be more active and have more movement in their day and do different types of exercise than females would. And so their body is craving to move more often. And that is where that release of endorphins, those feel-good hormones, we know is going to help with mental health. So yes, it is on that top 4 list, that's for sure. What we see is that as males age, there is such a thing as menopause. It's called andropause. And andro comes from andra, the Greek philosophy word meaning man or warrior. And it's the pause in that lifestyle of testosterone does weaken at a certain age, and it starts to be less circulating throughout the body. And so males around 50, this starts, but what we're seeing is it's starting earlier. So we'll talk about why that is, but what this looks like in changes in males' health as they age, it's things like a lack of muscle, and more fat is gained, less mobility, possibly more mood swings. Depression does appear later in life for some people. That fatigue kicks in, loss of libido, loss of that sexual satisfaction, that arousal, that libido. Also, poor circulation throughout the body. So this can be erectile dysfunction. It can lead to at a later age as well. So usually, 50 plus, but we're seeing this appear in 40-year-olds, yes, but even later 30s for a lot of males these days. And that is because they hold a very demanding position in some households and in some workplaces. And so their environments are becoming very demanding on their body. So it might be in their homes or their office with more toxic chemicals, more stressors physically, emotionally either, and they're not being able to process it with all the different tools they could be utilizing. We're seeing more environmental toxins, your forever chemicals, your microplastics. This is causing testosterone to decrease at an earlier age, causing a lot of these symptoms to appear. So this is something that we can work towards alleviating. It will take time, but like you said at the very start of this podcast, men have discipline. They also have motivation. So it is something that I admire so much because it can be what is missing from the female gender. And so this is where having that information, having that knowledge, and then taking those steps can provide a lot of relief. And quick relief for a lot of males too. That's a piece that I know a lot of females are probably jealous of how their body is adaptable. And so this is something that we see a lot of great results where that discipline lies.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the women who are listening, don't panic. We have lots of other amazing traits too, but just discipline is not always at the top. And that is because we have such a fluctuation in hormones. We're not going to get into that conversation, but that is a
That will be another
huge, piece. Okay.
one.
So just relax, ladies. We'll get there. But anyways, back to our men. So happy that you touched on that. I can't stress enough. We can't stress enough. Men, get the exercise in, whether it's weight training, walking, cycling, whatever you like to do, whatever makes you feel good. You feel that mood boost, that cognitive enhancement, that energy, whatever it is, do what feels good for you. So love that. Okay, to the next point that you mentioned, let's start with food. Do you think that there are specific foods that are best for boosting mood and supporting men who are looking to, really improve their mental health?
Yes, for sure. Nutrition is a key piece to this. So foods for mental health, I'm going to always be promoting fermented foods. And this is where traditional fermented foods, sauerkraut, your kimchi, your miso, your kefir, so many good fermented foods. And these feed your microbes in your gut. And while that significantly improves the transmitters to your brain. So fermented foods for mental health, for gut health, and then boosting mood. Well, I'm going to really mention some super herbs. Introducing some of these because not everyone does. And so looking at some herbs such as ashwagandha, you might have heard of this one before. It's quite popular. So ashwagandha can be very valuable for men's health. And this is because it can increase testosterone levels. And this is something where men start to see a lot of benefits with everything from muscle building to sexual desire and just mood as well. So ashwagandha is a great one. You can incorporate this, everything from just, drinking it in your bedtime tea, including it at lunch, maybe if you find your afternoons are very stressful. So ashwagandha is also an adaptogen herb that helps with stress levels. So this is a big factor with mental health, is working to soothe your adrenals. And so that's ashwagandha, a super herb. The next super herb that has amazing adaptogenic properties, so for stress relief, but also energy enhancing, is rhodiola. So I would also suggest rhodiola. This is a great one that helps to promote energy, physical energy, mental resilience as well. So rhodiola is a great one, both ashwagandha and rhodiola. If you're looking more for therapeutic value, yes, teas are an option, but therapeutic value, I would look for supplements. And that's where Living Alchemy makes an amazing organic, fermented ashwagandha and rhodiola. So those are also available at Joann's, and that's something that you can add into your daily regime.
Love that. Quick pause in today's episode because I want to talk to you about a transformational online program. In case you missed it, Joanne's Place released an online program called the Wellness on Purpose Program to Educate You last year. And our intention with this program is to make this education more accessible for our community to better support their wellness journeys. This program promotes sustainable and realistic changes, and it really focuses on the foundational pillars of every single person's health: your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, and also movement. If you want to get started today, click the link in the description below to learn more about the Wellness on Purpose program. By the way, it's completely free, and you can move at your own pace from the comfort of your own home. Now let's get back to the episode. Now, the next point I want to talk about is you mentioned the mindset of men. So what do you think about mindfulness, meditation practices? Are they supportive for men? I know from personal experience, I get that little fluff feeling from men being like, I don't need to meditate. I disagree, but I would love to know what your opinion is. Like, do we need to be telling everyone, specifically men, to start sitting down and meditating?
I also disagree. I do believe that both males, females, we need to be meditating. It's just creating some silence, creating some pause in our mind, constantly being processing. And this is gonna then help sleep as well. But we'll get into that one next. Males are finding they're not taking the time to sit and meditate. And an alternative that I would recommend, and a lot of males I'm sure are already hearing this calling naturally in different life stages, They find that they're being called to the great outdoors, and that's that calling to nature. So if you're not meditating, I know that there isn't always time for it, or you don't see it as valuable all the time. So just get outside, get in nature. And that's going to be just as valuable. And when I say in nature, I mean, you need to see the sky, not high rises, not street lights. You need to see trees, and when not with ear pods and listening to your audiobooks or music, you need to hear the birds. You need to be able to hear nature, feel nature, see it. Um, and this is part of the male identity. If you really think about it, that Andra, that warrior within them. So ancestral culture is really that male figure is this warrior, that's this protector, this provider, this hunter, gatherer. And so that calling to nature is natural. They're looking, and at certain life stages, they're looking to be more grounded, to be more rooted. And that's where they start to appear that, I do want to try a new hobby outside, or just take up a new skill set outside. And so the natural calling does appear, which is really interesting if you really kind of observe, if it's your dad, your uncle, your husband, to see how they grow and evolve. And nature's always going to be a part of that. So if you can get started earlier, you're going to see significant improvements in mental health. And usually it's something that doesn't come at a significant cost, or create a lot of havoc to kind of get into. So yes, nature's calling.
I am so happy that you brought up nature, because I think we need to put this on the record for the ladies that are listening, and the men is we've got to let them cut the lawn, and we've got to let them go fishing. They need to be outside. They need to do those tasks. So, I mean, they can do them at maybe better times. Maybe not when we're, cleaning the house, or when we have like plans or something, but I know from personal experience, those are two things, like especially cutting the lawn, I'm not allowed to do, because that's like my partner's like safe time. Like he just loves to do that, but also it is the time where it's like there's no distraction except for the lawnmower. But you're outside, you're hearing those birds chirp, you're getting that fresh air. And then same with fishing. I was actually just reading this article about water and the impact and meditative state of water for everybody in general. But whether it's by water, you can see water, you're on water, that alone has also a meditative state. So it doesn't mean that you need to be sitting down with your eyes closed on a meditation cushion. That's not what we're talking about in 2024. We're talking about quieting the mind, getting rid of the cell phone distractions, the music, the audiobooks, the podcasts. Stop trying to absorb information and just be with yourself, be with your thoughts. Try to quiet the thoughts and just have that as your meditation practice. It doesn't have to look like this, 15-minute solitude type of practice. So glad we got that out of the way. And maybe that will entice some of our men to see those activities, like being outside, as that meditative mindfulness practice. So good. Now, I know I said 3 habits, we added an exercise, but I think there's one more thing we need to add in here. Sleep. How does the sleep of the male gender impact their mental health? Do they need more sleep? Do they need less sleep? Is it quality of sleep? Tell us what you think about sleep impacting the mental health of men.
Yes, so certainly sleep is necessary for proper neurological hormone function. Solid sleep is what's most important. So men can operate on less sleep. It just needs to be that solid quality sleep. And the number one tip to really get into that solid sleep state is what you mentioned earlier, is not being in front of that screen. So that's that blue light that affects our melatonin production, and it will actually suppress it. Melatonin to help us fall asleep at night. So what we're doing when we're watching TV or being on our phone, or even reading a book online, this is where your brain starts to suppress melatonin, and you're not producing that to fall asleep quicker. And so this is where one suggestion would just to be off of any screen, a minimum 1 hour before bed. If you can start raising the bar, maybe you're already doing that. Amazing. Start with 2 hours, 3 hours, and then incorporate something else. So that's the pieces. You have to find something else to replace that. So there's a lot of different, if it can be, arts and crafts, or just reading a book, or maybe practicing that meditation, or going out for that evening walk. However it is to quiet the mind and not to overstimulate the mind will help to lead into that solid sleep. So even if it's, short a few hours, having the solid sleep is important to help with mental health.
Yeah, I think sleep is something that we all want to have the best intention with, but it tends to fall by the wayside. It's one of the first things for sure that we compromise on if we have deadlines or have places to be and things like that. So if we can't get longer amounts of sleep, let's just try to improve the quality of our sleep. So that is good. Now, I kind of want to circle back to a little bit to food, but more or less talking about nutritional deficiencies in men that are specifically impacting the mental health of men. Do you think that there is some unique things that are very dependent in terms of vitamins and minerals for impacting men's mental health, or their sleep, or their stress? I know you touched on ashwagandha and rhodiola already, but those are more supporting herbs. What about those nutritional vitamin and mineral deficiencies? How much of an impact do those have?
Yes, so significantly, and this is where some solutions to help combat these deficiency with Living Alchemy, we have one product that really fills in the gaps with nutrition. And so this is the Men's Daily Plus. This is a whole body optimizer. It's going to help with energy. It's going to help with immunity. It's going to help with aging support. And it really is a holistic new paradigm of a multivitamin because it's organic, it's non-GMO, and it's fermented. So it's easy on the digestive system, and it's all these amazing superfoods and whole foods, whole herbs. Men's Daily Plus is something that a lot of men have been really appreciating. And that's because they don't always want to be taking a handful of supplements, to fill in their B vitamins and all the whole alphabet. They don't want to take as many supplements as, say, a woman would be a little bit more open to taking a variety. And so with Men's Daily Plus, it covers all the gaps. It has saw palmetto, which further helps prostate. It has Siberian ginseng that further helps stress energy. It has also Hawthorn is in here, which further helps circulation. And this is all great for heart health. So you've got one capsule you can take a day that covers circulation, heart health, aging, mobility, the nutritional gaps. So there's a lot of goodness in the Men's Daily Plus by Living Alchemy. So that's kind of the one that covers everything, very general health. Looking at more specifics, so if you're a plant-based, vegetarian, vegan male, I would be suggesting Living Alchemy's iron product that we do have. This is very important for energy, red blood cell production. And so we've got that one. Then also zinc. Living Alchemy has a fermented whole food zinc. Zinc is really important for men's health, and this is because it helps to support the sexual organs. So if it's everything from libido to reproductive fertility programs to erectile dysfunction, that's how it helps men's health specifically. So I would do 2 capsules of the Zinc Alive by Living Alchemy. Further, you're going to see benefits with metabolism, immunity, skin with zinc. So there's a lot of benefits to that one, but specifically for men's health. And then, well, I mentioned gut health, right? So we've got Your Flora probiotic for men, also with cranberry and saw palmetto. So helps with daily digestion, the gas, the bloating, the indigestion, that kind of thing. But then it's going to help with prostate care, and it's going to help with urinary tract flow function. So Your Flora Man, that probiotic with the prebiotic and the postbiotic all in one. So we've got some good selection based on the male's needs.
We said men have discipline, but they like it to be simple. So they need to just know exactly what to take and they'll be disciplined. So I think that's the perfect starting foundation for men in supplementing. You've got your multi. I mean, the iron's optional if you have dietary limitations or restrictions. Zinc for sure. Probiotic, I mean, we know after we talked on this episode, but also in the research, it's showing we need to support that gut health. Plus, it's many other benefits by building up that good bacteria. And then those men out there that need that little extra push for energy or stress management, they would be looking at that ashwagandha rhodiola blend. So that's an easy 5 supplements if they know that, which I think is awesome. Now for our listeners, if you have more questions about those products specifically, please visit one of our Joanne's Place locations because our staff would love to talk through more of that for sure. I'll also leave in the description below a link to Living Alchemy's website where you can learn a little bit more about each of those supplementations, what's in them, dosages, and things like that, which is amazing. But I have one more question for you. I said multiple times already on this episode that, it could be men listening, but I would say probably a 50-50 chance. It's usually the women that are listening and are going to pass this information on to men, or it's somebody maybe else, like a loved one that could be listening to this. So for the people who are listening that are going to pass along this information, what can we say to them right now that can really support them when they know that someone close to them, whether it's their significant other, a friend, a family member who might be going through this tough time and trying to navigate their mental health? What can we do to support them in terms of, maybe it's words, maybe if it's a supplement, what words do we have for them, for those listening?
Yes, so we've covered a lot here. We've covered the nutrition, the exercise, the sleep, the mindset, supplements, but an important piece that we're missing is that self-care for males. There's a lot out there in society that's talking about self-care. It's geared towards females, but males need that self-care too. That space, that time to themselves to do what makes them happy and healthy. That's what self-care is. It's about happiness and healthiness. So whatever can promote that. So family members, for your dad, your uncle, your husband, your boyfriend, giving them that space to take that time to practice some self-care. Maybe for them it is a new men's self-care regime. That's amazing. If that makes them feel great, then they should do that. Maybe it is, a scalp treatment or booking a massage. You can start doing this for them. And then they'll see that, oh, that's acceptable that I can take that time, because a lot of males, they deal with what's in front of them, more their external environment. And so if you place them in a positive external environment, that health and happiness will shine. So yeah, there's things like working with their hands, taking on a new hobby. There is a lot of self-satisfaction in that. So if you see your male, starting to build something or say, hey, I'm thinking about fixing this. I know it doesn't need to be done. It's not on your to-do list, your honey-do list, but if they start having some ideas of their own that they really want to let them lead with it, that's going to bring self-satisfaction and really just promote that joy in life and really let them shine a little bit. And they need that. And so that's where, yeah, that joy and that that really brings a lot of positive mental health aspects to their overall health.
I love that. Let them lead with whatever, that popcorn moment in their head. But I know in these situations, we want to always provide comfort, I feel like, for our loved ones and, words of affirmation. And some people's love language might be that for sure. But I think you kind of nailed it there with being able to provide this space for them to get creative, to use their hands, to feel that, more masculine dominance in whatever they're doing, whether it's getting a task done or cutting the grass or whatever that might be. So create the space. And I think that will really show your loved one that they are there to support you. And yeah, so I love that. That's really great. Any other last comments or notes or anything regarding mental health for men?
Yeah, we covered a lot here, and I feel like there's a lot of great takeaways for both males, for females listening to pass along, and I hope you see it as valuable. Of course, reach out anytime if there's any specific questions that your listeners are looking towards. Myself, I do book free 30-minute supplement consultations on Living Alchemy supplements. So if we wanted a specific regime, I can help with that. And then further guide you as the staff at Joanne's Place can also do. And then, have it align for your individual.
Okay, perfect. I will leave that link as well as the link for the Living Alchemy website in the description below. Again, for our listeners, if you have further questions or you want to get your hands on some of these supplements, they are on promotion for June to really support Father's Day this month and show some appreciation to the men out there. So let us know if you have any other questions, visit our locations, and I want to thank you so much, Irene, for being on the podcast today. It's always a pleasure having conversations with you, seeing your insights in the industry, and really being here to support our community. So thank you so much.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Marissa.
Thank you for joining us for another insightful episode of the Wellness on Purpose podcast. We hope you found the information valuable and inspiring to support you along your wellness journey. Before we go, a quick reminder. The content shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, it's important to remember that everyone's health journey is unique. We strongly recommend consulting with your healthcare professional or a qualified health practitioner for personalized advice tailored to your specific needs and circumstances. Your well-being is a priority, and speaking to a healthcare professional ensures that you receive guidance that best aligns with your individualized health goals. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please reach out to us through our website. That's all for now. I hope you stay well, stay informed, and remember, your health is your greatest wealth. Until next time, take care.